This is Rabbi Adam Epstein, and today we're going to learn from a special book called Derech Hachaim, The Way of Life. And this is from the Mittler Rebbe of Lubavitch, who is the second Lubavitch Rebbe, the son of the Alter Rebbe. This book is very special, as the Lubavitch Rebbe would learn this in Elul as a preparation for Tishrei. So before we dive deep into the actual book, we're going to go through a little introduction. There's actually very interesting story behind this. So there was one time, and I'm shortening the story. There was one time that the Mittler Rebbe was traveling, which was a known thing for many great sages to do in Russia in the last 200 years. And he was traveling, and many times they would go to smaller towns that maybe didn't have their own rabbanim, and he would, So one time he was in a small town, and word was made known that he would take people in for yechidus, for a private audience. Of course, when people heard that such a famous personality was in town, people came from all of the small shtetelach around to meet with the Mittler Rebbe. So one person would go in, and they would speak, and he would leave, and that's the way it went for the day. At one point, the Mittler Rebbe stopped seeing anyone, and he had secluded himself for quite a long time. Minutes, hours went by, and then finally, even days, and people were kind of worried, like, what's going on here? Different assistants of the Mittler Rebbe were asked, find out what's going on. At one point, they realized that the Mittler Rebbe hadn't eaten anything, and they took it upon themselves to make a fast day, because they could tell that there was something going on that wasn't usual. And towards the end of the day, the Mittler Rebbe was approached by one of his assistants and basically explained that there was a yid that came in with a problem. Oftentimes, a guy had a physical or a spiritual problem, and he came in and he asked for guidance. And this is an unbelievable lesson, that for a tzaddik or a rebbe or a spiritual leader to be able to give guidance to somebody, if somebody feels they did something inappropriate or wrong, and wants help rectifying the situation, the Rebbe has to be able to see in their perspective, at least understand where they came from. That unfortunately nowadays there are therapists, the way they speak is with a lot of hubris, arrogance, that they see themselves as like this all-knowing sage with all the wisdom and all the power, and the person coming to them doesn't have this power, doesn't have the ability to help himself. That's not the way Tzaddik sees it. The way the Mittler Rebbe saw it is that here's a Jew coming to me with a problem. I have to be able to get into his mind to relate to him. So here came a person with some sort of spiritual failing. The Mittler Rebbe couldn't relate. And there's a similar story talked about with the Baal Shem Tov, that one time, he said to his close students, who were all holy people, they said, we have to be able to relate even to a simple Jew. And one of them said, well, what about somebody who doesn't keep Shabbos? And how do we at all see ourselves as equal with such a person? And the Baal Shem Tov said, one time there was a Torah scholar in the Beis Medrash who was dishonored, and I didn't stand up to protect his honor. And it says in the Gemara that a Torah sage is like Shabbos. So Baal Shem Tov commented, in a slight sense, I broke Shabbos. Because if a Torah sage is like Shabbos and I didn't defend this sage's honor, then I, in a way, did not defend the Shabbos. So similarly, the Mittler Rebbe was distraught that he could not figure out a way to relate to this Jew, to his problem, and how he could see it inside of himself. And this caused him great anguish. So he secluded himself and prayed and said Tehillim with tears until finally he got to a level where he could relate to this person. So after this whole event happened, the Mittler Rebbe came out of seclusion. Instead of breaking his fast, he was still fasting, he stood up and he delivered a mimer. But this mimer, in the Mittler Rebbe style, is several hundred pages, at least in the new prints. Very lengthy. It must have taken 6 to 8 hours just to recite, at least. So this discourse is in part the book Derech Hachaim, which means the way of life. And like I said, that this is a very special book that the Rebbe would learn in preparation for Rosh Hashanah, the New Year, and Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. So in this series, we're going to go through the two main sections of this book. The first one is called Shar HaTshuva and the Shar Tefillah, the gate of Teshuvah, repentance, and the gate of Tefillah, or davening. So let's get ready. This is going to be good.